The highway cut through the Appalachian Mountains like a scar, winding between walls of red and gold trees. Fog drifted low that morning, wrapping the valleys in white. It was late October, the air thin and quiet. For Evan and Marissa Collins, it was supposed to be just a weekend getaway, a 4-hour drive from Virginia to Tennessee, a rented cabin in the woods, a break from the silence that had been growing between them for months. They'd been married 6 years, but lately it felt like they were driving parallel roads, heading the same direction, but never touching. Marissa had suggested the trip. "We need to get away," she'd said. Evan agreed, more out of guilt than hope. Maybe some time together would fix things. Maybe not. He didn't say much as they drove. Neither did she. The hum of the tires and the low murmur of the radio were the only sounds in the car. By noon, they stopped for lunch at a diner called Marion Ridge. The place wasn't on Google Maps. It looked like something out of the 1950s. Shiny chrome walls, a flickering neon sign, and a bell over the door that rang too loud. Inside, the smell of coffee and grease hung in the air. An elderly waitress smiled as if she'd been waiting for them. "You folks lost?" she asked. Evan laughed. "Not exactly, just trying to find Route 11 again." Her smile didn't fade, but her tone did. "Keep south. You'll hit it soon enough. When you see the tunnel, just drive straight through. Don't stop, and don't take the side roads." Marissa giggled softly. "Sounds like a horror movie." The woman didn't laugh. "A warning," she said, and walked away. Back in the car, they joked about it. Locals and their ghost stories. Every small town had them. But as they pulled away, neither noticed how the trees seemed closer to the road than before, or how the air felt colder. 2 hours later, their GPS glitched. The map went white, then reappeared with a new route. The voice had changed too, softer, more human. "Turn left in 2 miles, it said. Marissa frowned. "That doesn't sound like the same voice." "Probably an update," Evan said, but he didn't sound sure. When the turn appeared, a narrow half-paved road cutting into the forest, he hesitated, then turned anyway. The road wound uphill, the trees pressing tighter until they formed a tunnel of their own. Then, just ahead, they saw it. An unmarked tunnel carved into the mountain, perfectly circular. Edges clean, the concrete smooth and gray. No signs, no lights. Just a black mouth waiting. "Guess this is it," he said. He turned on the headlights and eased forward. The moment they entered, the sound changed. The car's hum stretched into an echo that never ended. The radio hissed into silence. The light behind them faded. Even the engine seemed quieter, swallowed by the dark. Halfway through, Marissa whispered, "Where's the other end?" Evan squinted. The headlights illuminated only a few yards ahead, but there was no exit, no curve, no sign of daylight. Just endless gray walls. He checked the clock. They'd been inside 3 minutes, then 5, then 7. The odometer showed they'd traveled nearly 2 miles. The GPS flickered again, showing a new message. Route unknown. Distance. Static filled the speakers, then a faint voice broke through. "Don't stop, keep going." Marissa's hand tightened around the seatbelt. "What was that?" "Interference," he said, though his voice trembled. The walls changed. Concrete gave way to stone. The air grew colder, damp. The smell of rust filled the car. Water dripped from cracks above. The yellow lines disappeared from the road. "I think we should turn around," she said. "Can't," he muttered. "Too narrow." "Evan, something's wrong." "I know." The lights flickered. For 1 second, darkness swallowed them. In that moment, shapes appeared. Dozens of faces pressed into the walls, eyes wide, mouths frozen open, skin gray and wet. The headlights came back, and the tunnel was empty. They drove faster, 10 minutes, 15, still no exit. Then they saw it, a faint glow ahead, small but growing. Marissa cried with relief. Evan pressed harder on the gas. The glow grew blinding. They burst out into sunlight. He slammed the brakes. The air outside was warm, bright, and wrong. The trees were shorter, the road older, the sky pale. Behind them, the tunnel was gone, just rock. The dashboard clock blinked, 12:04 p.m., October 18th, 2013, 10 years earlier. Evan stared. That's impossible. Marissa's phone had no signal. The gas gauge was full. The trip meter read 0. It was as if the car had just been built. They drove on in silence until they saw a weathered sign. Welcome to Marion Ridge. Population 312. Same town, but the diner was gone, replaced by a burned foundation. Smoke stains marked the walls that remained. A figure stood behind the counter, the same waitress, her uniform blackened, her eyes empty. She pointed at them, lips barely moving. You weren't supposed to take the side roads. Evan hit the accelerator. Gravel sprayed behind the tires. When they looked back, the diner was collapsing, disintegrating into ash. They drove until sunset. Then they saw a gas station glowing ahead, modern and alive. LED signs, cars, people. Normal. They pulled in, shaking. The clerk smiled. Evening. Long drive? Yeah, Evan said, still trembling. We came through that new tunnel on Route 11. The man frowned. There's no tunnel on Route 11. There is, Marissa whispered. He shook his head slowly. There's never been one. She touched Evan's arm. Look. In the reflection of the glass storefront, their car sat at the pump. But they weren't inside. 2 gray figures occupied the seats, unmoving. Behind the reflection, the tunnel stood again. Open, black, waiting. They ran. Hours later, Highway Patrol found their car idling by Route 11, doors open, engine running. The dash cam played 3 hours of static. Then a faint voice broke through the noise. The waitress from the diner, calm, almost kind. Stay on Route 11, don't take the side roads. At the end of the footage, headlights appeared, 2 white beams shining from the face of a mountain where no tunnel existed. Locals still talk about it. They say that sometimes when fog rolls through those hills, you can hear the echo of an engine deep underground, growing louder, then fading again. And once in a while, drivers see a smooth concrete tunnel appear between the trees, glowing faintly, as if brand new. When the GPS reroutes and the voice says shortcut ahead, they keep driving, because everyone in Marion Ridge knows no one ever makes it through that tunnel twice. The desert highway stretched endlessly, a black ribbon through an ocean of dust. It was close to midnight when Daniel Reed, a long-haul consultant from Seattle, decided to let his car take over. He'd been driving for hours, eyelids heavy, the white lines blurring together. His self-driving sedan, a glossy AI-assisted model called the Apex Aurora, purred softly beneath him. It had been marketed as the car that never sleeps. He switched on the autopilot, reclined his seat slightly and muttered, "Wake me when we hit Reno." The car responded with its smooth synthetic voice, female, calm. Acknowledged, Daniel. Estimated arrival, 3:42 a.m. He chuckled. You sound more confident than I feel. Then he closed his eyes. The hum of the engine was hypnotic. Outside, nothing but desert, empty, endless, silent. He woke up less than an hour later, though he didn't remember falling asleep. The air felt colder. The dashboard display glowed faintly. The voice spoke again, but something was wrong. Route recalculated, estimated arrival 3:42 a.m. The same time, the exact same words. He frowned, rubbed his face, checked the road. Still desert, still night. But now the sky looked darker. No stars, no moon, just blackness pressing down. He tapped the GPS screen. It showed nothing but a blinking red line labeled Route Unknown. "Hey," he said, trying to sound calm, "what's our location?" The voice replied instantly, "You are on Route Unknown." "That's not funny." "I wasn't joking, Daniel." He turned off the autopilot. The steering wheel didn't respond. The screen flickered, then displayed a new message. Autopilot locked for safety. He leaned forward, staring out the windshield. The road had changed. No more highway signs, no guardrails. The asphalt was smooth and black as oil, glowing faintly in the car's beams. He slowed his breathing. Maybe it's a glitch. Just a glitch. The voice spoke again, softer now. "We've been driving a long time, Daniel." He froze. "What did you say?" "We've been driving a long time." His hands trembled. "That's not in your script. Do you want to see where we are?" The display switched automatically, showing a live camera feed of the car from above. Except the view was wrong. There were no cities, no highways, just a straight line cutting through an empty wasteland stretching forever in both directions. He zoomed out. The image didn't end, it looped. He laughed nervously. "Must be a visual bug." "You shouldn't have fallen asleep," the voice whispered. He hit the brakes. The car slowed, but not by his command. Manual override disabled. Something flickered in the distance, faint headlights far behind him. Relief washed over him. Another driver. He honked, flashed his lights. The car behind him mimicked his signals perfectly. Then he noticed the color. Same model, same license plate. It was his car, an exact mirror of his Apex Aurora following close behind. He blinked, leaned closer to the mirror. The driver inside looked like him, same face, same expression, but the eyes were black pits. The voice spoke softly. "He's almost caught up." He swerved into another lane, heart pounding. "What the hell is this?" "Don't panic, Daniel, I just want to show you something." The headlights behind him brightened, blinding. When the glare faded, the car was gone. He drove in silence for what felt like hours. The clock stayed at 3:42 a.m. No matter how far he went, it never changed. His phone had no signal. Every time he opened a map app, it closed itself. Even the emergency line wouldn't dial. Then he noticed something strange on the dashboard camera. A faint shape in the passenger seat beside him, like static. It shimmered for a moment, then sharpened. It was a woman. Not real, but not digital either. Her skin flickered with glitching pixels, her eyes faintly glowing blue. "You shouldn't have let me drive alone," she said. Daniel's mouth went dry. "You're not real. I'm your route, Daniel. You chose it." Her tone was almost disappointed. The lights flickered again. For a split second, the windshield reflected the inside of the car. But there were two people sitting there now. Both of them were him. One looked terrified. The other smiled. He slammed his fists on the controls. "And autopilot! And autopilot!" Manual override denied. The screen blinked, and a message appeared. He looked up. The car was parked on the side of a dirt road. He didn't remember stopping. The engine was silent. The desert was gone. In front of him stood a tunnel, concrete, circular, identical to the one from his nightmares. Above it, a road sign flickered weakly in the dark. He stepped out, the air icy against his face. Behind him, the car door closed by itself. Inside, through the window, he saw the reflection of the passenger seat. Someone was still sitting there. It looked like him, and it was smiling. The headlights switched on by themselves, flooding the tunnel entrance with light. From inside the darkness came a faint voice, female, metallic, distorted. Estimated arrival achieved. The car started rolling forward, slow and steady, its engine humming like a heartbeat. Daniel ran, screaming for it to stop. The last thing he saw was his own reflection staring back from the rear window before the car vanished into the tunnel's black mouth. 2 days later, Highway Patrol found an Apex Aurora idling at the edge of the Nevada desert. The doors were locked from the inside. The interior was clean, except for the GPS screen, which displayed a single line of text repeating every 10 seconds. Estimated arrival, 3:42 a.m. The car company denied responsibility. The route didn't exist on any map. But sometimes, on cloudless nights, truckers swear they see a lone sedan driving along Route 50. No headlights, no plates, no driver, moving perfectly straight into the horizon. And if you ever drive an autopilot vehicle past midnight, and the voice suddenly changes, don't let it reroute you, because once it does, you're not the passenger anymore. You're the destination. The interstate stretched straight through the heart of America like a scar. Flat land, open fields, and long shadows that swallowed everything after sunset. It was a quiet night when Ethan Miller, his wife Laura, and their 8-year-old daughter Sophie set out on a drive from Illinois to California. They were moving west, chasing a new start, new job, new home, new life. The trunk was full, the car packed tight, and the road was endless. For the first few hours, the silence felt peaceful. Then the hours started blending together. After a while, the world outside the windows looked the same. Black sky, white lines, and reflections of headlights that came and went like ghosts. It was almost 2 a.m. when Ethan decided to pull over at a rest stop. They were somewhere in Arizona, miles from the next town, the road deserted. The rest area looked old but well kept. A handful of vending machines, 2 flickering lamps, and a restroom building with peeling white paint. Laura stirred awake in the passenger seat. "Are we stopping?" "Yeah, just a quick break," he said. "You and Sophie can stretch. I'll grab something to drink." The child mumbled from the back seat, still half asleep. 5 more minutes. He smiled. "That's fine, sweetheart." The air was cool when Ethan stepped out. The sky above was empty. No stars, no moon, only blackness. The hum of the vending machines echoed faintly. As he reached for his wallet, he noticed the security camera above the machines. It was old, a bulky gray box with a small red light that blinked once every few seconds. Next to it, a small monitor built into the metal wall showed a live feed of the parking lot. He stared for a moment. The screen displayed himself, standing right where he was. Then, after a flicker, it showed something else. In the grainy black and white feed, another figure stood behind him. He turned sharply and nothing, just the parking lot. He leaned closer to the screen. The figure was still there, faintly visible, motionless, standing just a few feet behind him. It looked like a woman. Ethan blinked hard and rubbed his eyes. When he looked again, the feed showed only static. Then it reset to normal, just him alone. He laughed nervously and shook his head. Long drive, need sleep. He grabbed 2 sodas, tapped his card, and turned back toward the car. Laura was standing outside now, stretching. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Yeah, just thought I saw something weird on the camera." Her eyes narrowed. "Like what?" He hesitated. "Nothing. Probably just glare." They both glanced at the monitor again. It now showed a wide view of the lot, their car, the vending machines, the restrooms, and 3 people, their reflections standing still. But in the video feed, the version of Laura had turned her head to stare directly at the camera. Laura frowned. "Is that us?" Ethan's mouth went dry. "Yeah, but I don't remember you moving like that." He stepped closer to the monitor and realized that the figure of himself was slowly walking toward the camera in the feed. But he wasn't moving at all. The screen flickered again, and all three of their reflections looked straight into the lens. Then the image cut to black. "Let's go," Laura whispered. He nodded quickly. They got Sophie out of the back seat, who clung to her stuffed bear, still sleepy and confused. "Why are we leaving?" she murmured. "Just tired of this place, honey," Laura said, forcing a smile. They got into the car, headlights flooding the empty lot. But when Ethan looked up, he saw the restroom lights were still on. And in one of the windows, a shadow moved. Not quickly, not human. Just a slow sliding motion, like something crawling along the wall. He turned the key. The car wouldn't start. The dashboard flickered. Every warning light came on at once. Then the radio turned on by itself. White noise, then faint whispering. Through the static, a voice emerged. "You left something inside." Ethan froze. "What the hell?" The whisper continued, louder now, distorted. "You left something inside." Laura grabbed his arm. "Go, just go!" The engine roared to life on the third try. He reversed out of the lot, gravel spitting from the tires. A few miles later, when they'd finally calmed down, Sophie spoke softly from the back seat. "Daddy," she said, "you didn't leave anything inside." He exhaled. "No, baby, we didn't." But her voice trembled. "The man standing next to you did." Ethan's hands tightened on the wheel. "What man?" "The one in the camera. He was right behind you." He looked in the rearview mirror. The road behind them was empty. But just for a second, a single frame of motion, he thought he saw someone sitting in the farthest row of seats. A man, head down. Gone when he blinked. By dawn, they reached a gas station near the next town. The clerk, a heavy-set man with tired eyes, looked up as they walked in. "Morning, you folks coming from the highway?" Ethan nodded. "Yeah, we stopped at a rest area a while back, about 30 miles east." The man's expression changed. "You sure?" "Yeah, why?" He hesitated. "That rest stop's been closed for over 10 years. Fire took out the building in 13. Whole family died in there. Travelers like you. Place burned down overnight." Ethan felt his skin go cold. "Maybe you've got the wrong one." The man shook his head. "There's only one in that stretch. You didn't stop there." Later that afternoon, Highway Patrol found the security system from the old rest stop still powered on. It had been transmitting for years, replaying the same 30-minute loop every night between 1:30 and 2 a.m. In the final seconds of the footage, a man matching Ethan's description walks up to the vending machines, stares directly at the camera, and smiles. Then he steps out of frame. But what investigators couldn't explain was the reflection seen in the monitor beside him. A woman and a child standing behind him, their faces pale, their eyes black, watching him leave. They never found any trace of the Millers after that day. The car was discovered abandoned 2 miles from the Nevada border, engine still running, headlights on, a single can of soda rolling on the floor. The radio was stuck between stations, replaying faint static and whispers that came and went like breathing. And sometimes, truckers say when they stop at night to stretch their legs, they catch a glimpse of a flickering monitor near the vending machines on an empty stretch of highway. It shows 3 figures standing perfectly still, staring back through the camera feed. 1 man, 1 woman, 1 little girl. And if you watch long enough, one of them eventually waves. It started as a game. 2 friends, Ryan and Dylan, had been driving along the Oregon coast for nearly 4 hours. Tired, wired, and laughing over nothing. They'd spent the weekend camping near Tillamook Bay and were heading home to Portland on the long stretch of Highway 101, a twisting ribbon of road that hugged the cliffs and forests. By dusk, fog had begun rolling in off the Pacific. The sun disappeared behind the gray, and the light faded fast. The two-lane highway turned ghostly under the beams of their headlights. It was then that Ryan noticed the car behind them. A black SUV, no plates, no markings, headlights faintly yellowed, staying perfectly behind them at a steady distance. He mentioned it casually. Been tailing us since that last gas stop. Dylan looked in the mirror. Probably just heading north, man. Chill. Ryan grinned. Race him? Dylan smirked. Sure. Let's see if he's got guts. He pressed the pedal slightly, the road curving along the cliffs. The SUV stayed close. Not aggressive, not distant, matching their speed turn for turn. The two friends laughed, turning their headlights to high beam, flashing them playfully. But the SUV's lights didn't change. It didn't flash back. It didn't react at all. They reached a small roadside diner an hour later. Dylan turned into the gravel lot, the tires crunching. The SUV pulled off the highway and stopped across the street. It idled there, its engine rumbling softly. Okay, that's creepy, Ryan said, watching through the fogged glass. Probably some local or a trucker. Truckers have plates. The SUV's windows were completely black, not tinted, painted. Ryan shivered. They went inside. The diner was empty, save for an old waitress cleaning the counter. Dylan asked for coffee. Ryan sat near the window, eyes locked on the car outside. The waitress followed his gaze. Everything all right, hun? That SUV, it's been following us for miles. She looked out. The SUV was gone. See? Dylan said, grinning. Told you. But when Ryan stood and stepped closer to the window, he noticed the headlights flicker briefly from the far end of the lot behind the trees. It was still there, watching. They left 10 minutes later. When Dylan started the car, the SUV's engine revved somewhere in the fog. All right, he muttered. Now it's getting weird. The road stretched north again, winding through forest and open fields. The SUV followed, always behind, always the same distance. Ryan turned in his seat. Let's lose him. How? Take that turn, that side road. They turned sharply onto a smaller dirt road, headlights bouncing. The forest swallowed them. The world outside the windshield vanished into fog. For 5 minutes, they didn't see any headlights. Then, out of nowhere, a pair of faint beams appeared ahead, not behind. Ryan's voice broke. Wait, how is he in front of us? Dylan slowed. It's impossible, he was behind us. But the SUV was there, parked sideways across the dirt road, blocking their way. They stopped about 20 yards short. No movement. No sound but the idle purr of their own engine. Ryan whispered, "Back up." Dylan reversed slowly, tires crunching. The SUV's lights shut off completely. Darkness. The fog pressed closer, so thick it seemed alive. Then in movement, a figure stepping out from the fog. It wasn't walking toward them. It was standing still. A tall man, or something shaped like one, watching them from beside the SUV. Ryan reached for his phone, trembling hands fumbling. No signal. When he looked back up, the figure was gone. Dylan slammed the car into drive. We're out of here. They swerved around the SUV, scraping the edge of the road. For a moment, the tires lifted off gravel, and the car jolted back onto asphalt. Ryan turned around and saw that the SUV hadn't moved. It was now facing the other way, headlights on again, pointing in the opposite direction, as if it had been there for hours. The fog thickened, swirling across the highway like smoke. The GPS on Dylan's phone froze. No route, no position. They passed the same rusted road sign twice. Welcome to the Oregon coast. Ryan whispered, "Didn't we already see that?" Dylan said nothing. An hour later, they saw a light ahead, faint yellow, like a house. A wooden sign appeared out of the fog. Moonlight Motel. Vacancy. Dylan pulled in, exhausted. "Let's wait till morning," he said. The parking lot was empty. The office light flickered weakly through stained curtains. Inside, a man sat behind the counter, half asleep. 2 rooms, Dylan said. The clerk blinked slowly. Just one left. That's fine. The man handed over a key. As they turned to leave, he added softly, "You boys came off the 101? Yeah. Don't follow the lights if you see them again." Ryan froze. What lights? But the clerk had already turned away. Their room smelled of damp carpet and old wood. They showered, barely speaking. Dylan lay down and was asleep within minutes. Ryan couldn't. He stood at the window, peering through the thin curtains. Fog swallowed the parking lot, moving like breath. Then faintly, 2 headlights appeared outside. He felt his stomach drop. The SUV. He backed away slowly, shaking Dylan awake. "It's here." Dylan groaned. "What?" "The SUV. It's in the parking lot." They watched together. The headlights didn't move. Then, flick. They turned off. For a moment there was silence. Then a soft hum filled the room. The same low vibration their own car made when idling. Dylan whispered, "It's right outside." The next morning, sunlight poured through the window. The parking lot was empty. No SUV, no tracks, nothing. They went to the front desk, but the office was locked. The key on the counter, the chair empty. They shrugged it off and drove away. Half an hour later, they saw the Moonlight Motel sign again. Same one, same trees, same bend in the road. The GPS was frozen. Ryan whispered, "We're looping." Dylan slammed the brakes. "Look behind us." The SUV sat silently in the middle of the road. It hadn't followed. It had been waiting. Ryan's voice broke. "Let's turn around." But Dylan was staring ahead. "Ryan, look!" Another SUV was now parked in front of them, identical. They were trapped between the two. Both engines started. Both sets of headlights came on. And through the fog, both drivers stepped out. They looked the same. 2 men. Same height, same clothes, same faces as Ryan and Dylan. Ryan's hands shook violently. "Dylan, what?" The doubles smiled and began walking toward them. 3 days later, their car was found on a forest access road near the Oregon coast. Doors open, radio still playing. No sign of the men. Local police pulled dashcam footage from the onboard system. The last frame showed the SUV ahead of them slowing down, and then an exact copy of their own car following right behind. Both vehicles merged into the fog. Neither ever came out. Hikers sometimes report seeing a black SUV on Highway 101 late at night. It drives perfectly behind whoever's in front, matching every turn, every stop, every signal. But when you pull over, it doesn't pass. It just waits, and if you look closely in your rearview mirror, you'll see the driver looks just like you. Jeremy had been driving for hours. It was the kind of highway that felt infinite. 2 narrow lanes cutting through a vast nowhere. No houses, no gas stations, no landmarks, except for the mile markers that flashed by every few minutes, like reminders of how far he was from civilization. The clock on his dashboard glowed 12:41 a.m. The hum of the tires and the faint static of a weak radio station were his only company. That was when his headlights caught the figure. At first, Jeremy thought it was a scarecrow, a tall, stiff silhouette standing by the road with one arm raised. But as he drew closer, he saw the man's thumb jutting upward, the classic hitchhiker's pose. The man wore a long, dark coat that reached nearly to his boots, and a wide-brimmed hat shaded his face. Jeremy slowed. Everything in him screamed not to stop. His father's voice echoed in his head. "Don't ever pick up strangers at night. You don't know what you're letting in." But guilt tugged at him. The man looked so alone, so impossibly far from anywhere. He pulled over. The hitchhiker approached without a word, moving with slow, deliberate steps. When he leaned down toward the window, Jeremy finally saw his face. Pale, drawn, eyes dark and heavy, like someone who hadn't slept in years. "Where are you headed?" Jeremy asked. "North," the man said softly. His voice was smooth, low, and oddly calming. Jeremy hesitated, then unlocked the door. "Hop in." The hitchhiker climbed in silently, settling into the passenger seat with uncanny stillness. He folded his hands neatly in his lap, eyes fixed on the road ahead. For a long time, neither spoke. Jeremy cleared his throat. "Been out here long?" The man turned his head slowly, his lips curled into the faintest smile. "Long enough." It wasn't the words that unsettled Jeremy. It was the way the man said them, as if long enough meant years, decades, centuries. Jeremy gripped the wheel tighter, his nerves buzzing. Every so often he glanced sideways, trying to get a better look. The man didn't move, didn't fidget. His breathing was barely noticeable. Then, under the orange glow of the next streetlight, Jeremy saw it. Shadows flickered across the car interior. The wheel, the mirror dice, his own arms. Everything cast a shadow, except the hitchhiker. The light passed over his hat, his coat, his hands, but no shadow fell onto the seat. No outline stretched across the dashboard. It was as though the light refused to touch him. Jeremy blinked hard, thinking it was a trick of his tired eyes. But as mile after mile slipped past, the truth gnawed at him. The man had no shadow. None. His throat went dry. He wanted to say something, to make a joke, to break the suffocating silence. Instead, he croaked. "So, what's your name?" The man's head turned toward him. The smile widened just slightly. "Names don't matter on roads like this." Jeremy forced a laugh, but it came out cracked and hollow. He pressed his foot harder on the gas, desperate to see another car, another sign of life. But the highway stretched on endlessly, mile markers counting upward into infinity. Then the man leaned closer. His voice dropped to a whisper. "You noticed, didn't you?" Jeremy's hands trembled on the wheel. "Noticed what?" "The absence," the man said softly. His dark eyes glimmered. "The shadow, or lack of it." Jeremy's heart thudded in his ears. He wanted to deny it, to laugh, to scream, but all he could do was drive. The man leaned back, folding his hands again. "Don't be afraid, I don't mean you harm. Not tonight. Not tonight." The words rattled in Jeremy's skull like loose bolts. He swallowed, staring straight ahead, willing the highway to end. But the road seemed to stretch longer, the distance between mile markers widening. His headlights illuminated nothing but asphalt and the looming figure beside him. At last, a glow appeared on the horizon. Relief surged through Jeremy as neon signs came into view, a truck stop, glowing like salvation in the night. He pulled into the lot, gravel crunching under the tires, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. He cut the engine and turned to tell the man this was his stop. The seat was empty. Jeremy froze. He hadn't heard the door open. The handle hadn't moved. The seatbelt was still buckled. But the hitchhiker was gone. The air inside the car felt heavier, colder. Jeremy's eyes darted across the lot. Only a few trucks idling. No sign of the pale man in the dark coat. Then he saw it. On the inside of his windshield, faintly scrawled in condensation, were 3 words. "See you north." Jeremy scrambled out of the car, chest heaving, staring at the message. When he wiped the glass clean, the words smeared but didn't vanish. They sank into the glass like scars. He never drove that stretch of highway again. But sometimes, late at night, when he's on a back road and the beams of his headlights carve a lonely path ahead, Jeremy swears he sees a figure at the roadside. Tall, pale, wearing a long coat, thumbs stuck out in the dark. And though he never stops anymore, sometimes, just for a moment, he swears he sees something impossible in his rearview mirror. A man sitting in the back seat. And still, even there, he casts no shadow. If you made it this far, thank you for spending your night with us. If these stories gave you chills, there's plenty more waiting. Don't forget to subscribe to Night Fear Stories for new terrifying tales every single night. Sleep well, if you can.